In this segment, I'd like to describe some of the grammar tools that have been added to TBTA. These tools are intended to make your grammar development a bit easier. Developing real grammar, in these demonstrations and in these tutorials, we're just illustrating some of the capabilities of the grammar. When you actually develop a grammar for a language, the grammars become quite complex. And so tools have been added to try to simplify that process for you as much as possible. And in this video, I'd like to demonstrate 4 of these tools. The first tool is called Grammar Spy, and it lets us watch what's going on in the grammar step by step. So for example, right now we're at nouns 1-6, which produces "this man walked." And you recall in an earlier segment, we wrote a rule that inserts articles and demonstratives. This is a table spell-out rule, and it has 2 layers. Suppose something in this rule isn't working exactly the way that you want. You could invoke Grammar Spy, and the way you invoke Grammar Spy on a rule is to just click on that rule's name, and then you'll see down in this box, Grammar Spy invoked at, spell out rules, nouns, articles, insert articles. So now, when we click the Generate button, TBTA will execute all of these rules, but it will stop when it comes to this rule, and then it will show us step by step exactly what it's doing and the decisions that it's making. So let's click the Generate button, and it executes all of the rules up to that point, and now it's ready to show us what's going on with this particular rule. So it says ready to begin executing the following rule: type, spell out, syntactic category, noun, group name articles, rules name, insert articles. So we can click execute next step. Okay, this constituent highlighted in red, it begins at the beginning of the verse, and it inspects each constituent. This constituent highlighted in red is not a noun, so this rule doesn't apply here. Execute next step. Now it's inspecting that noun phrase, as you can see highlighted in red. This constituent is not a noun. Okay, now it finds a noun. This constituent highlighted in red is a noun, so this rule may apply here. Execute next step. Now it shows us the rule. This is a table rule. The first layer is shown below. Now ready to check the layer called proximity. You may recall from an earlier video that table spell-out rules are able to have up to 100 layers, and when a table spell-out rule is being executed, TBTA starts with the last layer, and it looks for a cell that matches in the semantic representations. And then it will move forward through the previous layers. So it says now ready to check the layer called proximity. That's the last layer. And here's that layer. You can rest your cursor on the various headers, the row names and the row columns, and you can see the features. Let's say execute next step. Rules features for row 1 proximity are noun proximity equals near speaker and listener, etc., etc. The rules features for row 1 proximal, that's the row's name, match this word's features. So now ready to check the column features. So this row matches. Now it's going to check column by column. Execute next step. Rules features for column 1 called singular are noun number equals singular. The rules features for column 1 singular match this word's features. Again, it's still looking at this word highlighted in red. Therefore, if this is the last cell in this rule where all of the features match, this cell will be applied to this word. Now it's going to continue searching the other columns and the other rows, and it will be the last cell in a particular layer that matches. That cell will be used. Okay, rules features for column 2 called plural are noun number equals dual, trial, quadrille, etc. The rules features for column 2 called plural don't match this word's features. Specifically, the noun in this verse has a number value of singular. But this rule specified one or more other values. You may rest the cursor on the input structure to see these other values: dual, trial, quadrille, etc. Now it's going to check row 2. Rules features for row 2 called distal are, etc. The rules features for row 2 called distal don't match the word's features. Specifically, the noun in this verse has a proximity value of near speaker, but this rule specified one or more other values. Okay, so it's now checked. This rule only has 2 rows and 2 columns. It's now checked all of them. This one, row 1, column 1 matched. So it says this rule applies to this word. Now notice it didn't go on to the first layer. It found a cell in this particular layer that matches, so it's going to apply that cell. This constituent highlighted in red. Okay, so it inserted this article, and now it begins searching again for another noun. So this rule is finished. We can say finish generation. Inserted by spell out rule, nouns, articles, etc. So that's the first tool that I'd like to show you. It's called Grammar Spy. And again, to invoke it on a particular rule, all you have to do is click on that rule's name. And then you'll see in this window here, Grammar Spy invoked at spell out rules, verbs, tense, questions, get a tense auxiliary. Grammar Spy works for all of the types of rules, and it will walk you through each step as each rule is making decisions about whether or not it should apply, what it's looking for, etc. It will show you every step, and that will help you figure out why a particular rule isn't applying where you want it to apply, or why a rule is applying when you don't want it to apply. The second tool I'd like to show you is right here, called Search Grammar. You can perform various types of searches on your grammar. For example, grammar topics. Here are all of the grammar topics that have been defined. You may remember throughout these tutorials I've been encouraging you to assign each grammar rule to at least one grammar topic, and this is one of the reasons why, because it's very nice to search on grammar topics. You'll see the second reason why I encourage you to do that in a minute. Let's search on questions. So now it's searching through the grammar, looking for all of the rules that have a grammar topic of question, and there are several. We've seen this in a previous video. We've seen that one, and then our movement rule. So here are all of the grammar rules that have been assigned the grammar topic. There are other types of searches. You can search on a source concept or a particular target word, semantic features. Let's do that. Now we select a syntactic category. I'll select nouns. Let's select a few of these values. And now we say search. And again, it will search all of the grammar for rules that have one of these values. And here's the rule that we just looked at in Grammar Spy. So these search capabilities can be very helpful. And that's the second tool that I'd like to show you. The third tool is right here, called Export Grammar. There are various formats. I won't go into all of the details here. You can organize the grammar by topic or by rules. Let's organize by topic. We'll export it as an HTML file. Our language name is demo, so it's going to be called demo grammar. We'll say yes, and now it exports our grammar. We can go look at that file right here, demo grammar. So it's organized by topics. Topic number 1 is number, and here are all of the rules associated with that grammar topic, the spell out rules, etc. Participant tracking. There's one rule associated with that. Noun proximity, etc. Tense. Now we've barely begun developing this grammar for our demo language, so our grammar is rather small, but you can see that this is a good beginning for a grammar description. So that's the third tool. The fourth tool, the final tool that I'd like to show you in this segment, is called Other Grammars. You can click on it, and if you have other language databases in your TBTA directory, then you can inspect their grammars. For example, we can look at English or Keiwa or Korean, it's quite helpful to look at the English grammar. If you want to see how I handled a particular issue in the English grammar, here it is. You can look at the various rules. That rule's turned off. Add in full words, etc. So you can inspect the grammars from other languages. Let's go look at the Korean grammar. Spell out rules for verbs. Okay, so if you want to see how a particular issue was handled in other languages, you can use this tool. And that concludes this segment.